debate over virtual classrooms has erupted once again after the Karnataka government decided to put the brakes on live virtual classrooms up to standard 5 and could even extend it up to class 7. Now, the theory behind this is that live virtual classrooms increase screen time for children. It also increases the disparity between the haves and have-nots, because all children don't have access to devices where they can really be a part of live virtual classrooms. On the other hand, a lot of schools have taken to online options in the middle of the COVID pandemic, and with no clear picture really of when schools will start and when parents will find it safe to send children to school, it's the only way as of now. But does it really work? And does it work especially for children below the 5th standard or for younger children? That's really the big question. And to get more perspective on it, I have two great educators on the show today. I'm joined by Cyrus Vakil, the principal of the Bombay International School, and Mr. Madhav, Chavan, of course, of the Pratham Education Foundation. Welcome to both of you, and thank you so much for joining us on the show this evening. Mr. Vakil, let me start by just getting your take on this. The Karnataka government's decision will have no bearing as of now on Maharashtra and where your school is, but it is definitely a debate which is going on in the community between teachers, parents, and principals, I'm sure.
Sure, and at one level, it's everybody's duty to make online learning effective. It's not a choice that we had, right? When on Friday, the 13th of March, we moved from one medium to the other. It's not because all the schools and the teachers and the parents and students said, yes, we all of a sudden we love online learning. It was a necessity, right? And it's a necessity that students, parents, teachers, they've all learned to cope with over weeks and months. We've all improved at it. And we've, in a sense, I would say we even transformed learning into spaces that it had not been there before. Yeah, so I think there have been several pluses. Obviously, there are some negatives. Again, we can deal with some of the negatives. We can't deal with others. But it was a forced choice. And it remains a forced choice for many of us today who are caught in big cities with some form of lockdown going to be around for quite a while.
Yeah, but Mr. Vakil, in terms of a decision, and I'm not asking you to comment specifically of what the Karnataka government has chosen to do, but Karnataka also has a city like Bengaluru in it. And we've seen that the education system in India is very diverse in its offerings. You have top schools, where a certain category of children can go. And then you have a lot of other schools where children go where they may not have access to devices where they can join online, at least live classes. Do you think it merits some sort of a standardization like the one that Karnataka is attempting?
It depends on who is doing the standardization, right? I mean, typically in India, education policy is framed by the political class and not by educators. And that is a very, very serious problem. I think, and there is a view of education that it must be homogeneous, it must be standardized. And the fact is that students differ, schools differ, boards differ, and, particularly in a country of India's size, or even in a state of Karnataka size or Maharashtra size, any attempt at standardization, I think, is inherently problematic. Also here, where access to devices is so varied, it's something that, it has to be done on a case-by-case basis. Saying yes to all and no to all is, I think, inherently problematic. And in that sense, educational policy is different from public health policy, which must be to some extent standardized, right? even there, as we see, there is a certain amount of differentiation based on the rate of disease. Yeah. So I think standardization is generally something we are too fond of in India, and we need to be more differentiated in our approach to education.
Mr. Chavan, what is your take on the whole debate? Again, we're looking at this in a situation where we don't know when kids can return to school, and we don't even know if parents will want children to return to school, especially if they're younger children initially. And we know we're quite far away from a vaccine. So why can't online classes, virtual live online classes, be an alternative?
No, online classes means many things. I mean, the one interpretation of online is, as Mr. Vakil was pointing out, taking great pains to say live, or you said live classes. So that is completely different from various other things that you can do using the digital devices and digital resources. And I saw something in the news that the government is saying you can use videos and so on and so forth, but not go live. And I don't understand the logic of why not go live and so on and so forth. What I notice is that somehow, as soon as this pandemic happened and schools were closed down, everybody started jumping up and down with online. And I think it was obvious that not everybody in India was going to be able to do online, or even children will not be able to. More than 90% of India's population does not have the required equipment. As Mr. Vakil was saying, people have multiple devices and all that, then it's fine. There is space, it's fine. But if you suddenly start saying everybody's going to go online, it's not going to work. So it was never meant to be a solution for all. Now, whether this order has been passed to bring some kind of a standardization, I don't know, because I doubt that was done. What I read is there was some controversy about fees being charged and some worry that children are sitting in front of the monitor for too long. But then they're sitting in front of TVs too long also. So I really don't know what to make of this order. The government and the experts in their wisdom have passed the order. And let's see now, I suppose there'll be some people will go to court and some people will battle about it.
Yeah.
But my worry is that now others are trying to do monkey see, monkey do. Those who are not the schools, private schools, lower down the cost chain, so to say, are also trying to do something with online learning. Even if you don't have a laptop or a desktop at home, can you do online learning with a mobile phone, with a smartphone? Now that's with and live as you're talking about. So I think some people are trying to do that with not enough means to do the online education. So I don't think it's not a question of standardization. I think everybody has to become a little sane and say exactly what are we doing here. So the schools are not likely to open until August or September, as people are saying. And then, as you rightly pointed out, I heard feedback from some slums in Pune city that many people have left the slums anyway. And those who are there are saying, we are not going to send our children to the school until there is a vaccine. Even the poorest are quite aware of the dangers or whatever, or at least they think they are aware of dangers. Mind you, in other countries, I think Denmark and many other countries, schools have been reopened, saying that the children are not really carriers or whatever. I'm not totally familiar with that. No. So I think we need to figure out, understand first of all what the situation is, and then take steps.
No. So a few very important issues you flagged, Mr. Chavan, and let's go through them one by one. One is, of course, as you put very clearly, the Karnataka government has said you can have pre-recorded videos, and they want it to a duration of 10 minutes, possibly, and you can see that, but not have online classes. Now that's an important point. What is the distinction between the two? With a smartphone pretty much in every home, in every category, can smartphones be utilized to extend that opportunity to all children? And should there really be a disparity, and should there be a widening gulf between what kind of education children get just depending on the access to devices and access of incomes at home? These are some very important issues. So let me come to you, Mr. Vakil, on the question about recorded versus live. The problem seems to be with live online classes. And yes, it has stemmed from some controversy over fees, where, parents have also been wondering whether they should be, what kind of fees they should be paying for online classes. Now, access to some online classes being denied because of non-payment of fees, etc. So it's all tied in.
Yeah, okay. Now, a fair amount of research has been done on what's called synchronous and asynchronous classes, which means essentially live and pre-recorded, okay? And I think there's general agreement from everything that I have read that a blended model, which brings live and recorded material together, is probably the best way to go, because each of them has certain advantages. With live classes, there is an element of intimacy. There is the teacher-student connect. There is the student-student connect, and discussion becomes possible. With pre-recorded, there is more control over quality. You can be sure that technical problems are not coming in your way. So both mediums have an advantage, and I think it's for each school and even every subject within the school and different sections of the school, I think, should have the right and the responsibility to choose their perfect mix between synchronous and asynchronous, which is pre-recorded and live. And that's my own position on it. And I think there is a fair amount of research to back this up.
Okay, let's talk about now the age factor. For older classes, online, for older students, online classes have been around for some time, and possibly it's easier for them. Here, the argument is also exposing very young children, and in some cases, it's happening even in pre-primary, very small children, sometimes getting their first taste of education on online classes. Mr. Chavan, do you think that is an issue? That if we are looking at perhaps schools opening in August, September, maybe early 2021, then for very small children, we can wait. We can wait and let them hop on when things get back to normal.
Look, I think the issue is, one is of education, the other is of engagement. And children have to be engaged. And this is a crisis. And in the crisis, actually the most important thing is to engage the children, keep them happy, entertained, if nothing else. And it's not about 1 year of education. I don't know that anybody who probably went through 10 years of education and remembered what was taught in 4th standard, because it doesn't work that way. You keep on learning. It's not about the lesson number 4 of textbook number 5. So I think what is required now is, as the time extends, and the lockdown period where children will have to stay home or whatever, they need to be engaged. Now, what is the form of this engagement going to be if they are not going to be able to go to a school? Then naturally, and parents will be going out to work as well. So how is all this going to happen? That is the critical problem. Now, people have to find a solution. If the father goes out to work, mother goes out to work, if both don't go out to work, how is this going to play? If as you say, another 6 months, if the schools are kept closed, not all schools will remain that way, but in some areas, that's a possibility, a distinct possibility. People will be worried, there'll be fear, and so on. Recently, talking about online, there is unidimensional. People think in one dimension, that online means using the computers and so on and so forth. Recently, there was a meeting with the government of Maharashtra where I proposed a different online solution, and for people who don't even have smartphones. The simple thing is, if you see, and this could be used in a city like Mumbai, where there are lots of containment zones in the slums and so on, and the children go to municipal schools, do not have the means of smartphones and so on. So just take a simple ratio. The pupil-teacher ratio in our schools is 1:30 or a little less than that. Okay. Now, what if you divide these 30 children into 5 or 6 groups, and each teacher just had a conference call with 5 or 6 children about a certain part that they want to learn? It's just having a conversation, keep the children engaged and tell them what to do. And there are details, of course, but this is something this is also online education. It's just using different devices. The point is that children are being engaged. It doesn't even have to be heavy education. It can be simple things like the teacher chatting with the children and so on. So I think we can think of different ways of engaging the children. And I understand in 8th, 9th standard, etc. Actually, there probably the need for online education or a connection with the teacher is less, because they can study their textbooks themselves and they can form
then with younger. So in consensus at the end of this, are we agreeing that there's no escaping online education, and the Karnataka government's decision at the end of it may have to be reviewed because we are in a different world? Am I going to get the two of you to agree to it? Stick your necks out and say it?
Yes. Yes.
It doesn't, you are right. It doesn't make sense.
Yes, Mr. Vakil, you agree as well?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Outright blank doesn't mean much right now. It doesn't help one way or the other.
Yeah, and I understand the need to be inclusive. It's important. All children have a right to education. But then find a way to include everyone instead of excluding everyone, I think would be a better way to go about it. Thank you so much,
some people.
Mr. Vakil and Mr. Chavan, for joining us in the discussion this evening. We'll take a very short break, but a lot more on the other side. Stay tuned.
Thank you.
Thank you.